Hey everybody, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notify button so you'll know when you're getting new episodes. And we just want to grow this project. I thank you in advance. Without further ado, let's get it rolling. The Shout Out Show. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Miles, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. I hope you're having a fabulous Tuesday. And if it's not fabulous, let's just hope that it's good. And if it's not good, let's hope we can get a chance to work on it on Wednesday. Right off the top, brothers and sisters, right off the top, I just want to let you know our topic is I'm going to focus on the Muslim Journal. Not just focusing on the Muslim Journal. I'm going to talk some aspects about why this is a really, really important aspect of our community, if you will. I know it's a Muslim journal. It's part and parcel, part of the African American Muslim experience here in the United States. However, I would be remiss if I said that it wasn't applicable to every Muslim that's here in the United States. And I'll be going into that a little bit further. But before we get too deep, please let me welcome you if you come to the show for the first time. First time, the rules are simple. I guess I should post maybe, but I'll just go through them just because I'm used to going through them. Number one, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you. Your presence is welcome and appreciated. It's number one. Number two, if you don't mind, click that subscription link, click the notification link. And if you like the show, click the like box as well. Third item that you should be aware of, you are officially part of the Shout Out Show family, the Shout Out Show soldiers, an eclectic group of people that come here on the show. They get the shout outs, but you know what? They get the thoughts out. So we could name it the Thoughts Out Show, but we're going to call it the Shout Out Show for right now. And if you have some ideas or some things you want to get off your chest, please don't sit in the background, jump in the comment section, because you know what? This platform is your platform. I keep telling people, this platform is your platform. So I'm going to be moving through some things. So everybody who's in the comment section, stay there. Don't move, because here's the other part of the Shout Out Show. I always introduce people who are part of the Shout Out family. So if you're in the comment section, don't move, because I'm going to show you how the shout out works. So we have our regulars on here. We got Sister Ree. Sister Ree is doing some charity work and some wellness work with her auntie up in Michigan. We hope that's going well, and we hope that auntie is recovering. You know, when they get a certain age, man, you have to give them a lot of tender loving care. So we hope that you're doing that, Sister Ree. And we miss you. I definitely miss those meals, but you know what? You're doing the right thing, and I'm so glad that you're there for Auntie. I got to talk to Auntie, by the way, other brothers and sisters. I got to talk to her on the holiday, and she sounded strong. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Sultana, who is the consultant producer, the star in waiting. I'm just the appetizer. She is the main course. She's going to be doing some amazing things moving forward. I told you guys. I don't know if you saw her host a show about climate change. Great show. But she's going to be coming on more and more and developing her own segments. And I am generally excited. And my big brother, my brother all the way from the North, Altaf Rashid. Man, we are so happy to have you. This brother comes all the way from Toronto every night. No passport, no immigration. There's no wall that can keep him out. And there's no wall that can keep him in. We appreciate you, Altaf, for coming on the show. So let me also throw in, we got Sister Ika coming all the way over from Indonesia. She's fresh off the rug, I believe, from praying Fajr. Alhamdulillah, Sister Ika, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you. May Allah bless you and your family. Billa Ahmed, what's going on, brother? You said, Assalamu alaikum, bro, and advertise, watching. You know what, brother? You tell your friends that the Shout Out Show is here. And I'm going to tell my people, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing a little time with us, man. We hope that you come back. I just want you to know this platform is your platform. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So, Brother Billy, you have officially gotten your shout out on the Shout Out Show. Sister Rabina, I'm going to tell y'all, Sister Rabina is our official research department. She comes up with so many things. I haven't got a chance to read that poem yet, Sister Rabina, but I'm going to read it. And I think we're going to have Sister Rabina on the show and just have her talk. I'm gonna let some of you guys do your own segment. That's what I think would be fun. I'm gonna do awesome. I'm gonna have fun that way. Brother Billa, thank you so much. Oh, I didn't know, brother. Okay, hold on a minute. Sister Reed says she misses everybody. Like I said, this is your home, Reed, so you can come on here anytime you want to. Brother Bill, I did not know that you are in the UK, man. You and Sister Rabina, you can share on that plane ticket coming to the shout out show. Sister Rabina is also from the UK. What part? Let us know. Um, but alhamdulillah, doing great, and the UK is doing well. Yeah, I have my duas up for you. I got a bunch of, I want to say, UK family over there, and I hope anybody who's watching in the UK that you number one, you're taking care of yourself. Number two, you're following the best of health advice, and number three, you take precautions. This virus is not here to play. I had it. Trust me, it is not anything that you want to mess with. All right. So, now we had that out, I want to share. Now, the way my show works a lot of times is, yes, I'm a comedian, da da da. But what I like to do is set up things along the way, and then I pick a point where we're going to have some fun, and we do the humor part. All right. So I just want you to go there. Oh, okay, brother. So you saw me at a show. Bolton. I know what Bolton is. I know what Bolton is next to Manchester. Thank you so much, brother. I hope I gave you a quality show. And inshallah, I'll be back there when things simmer down, when I can get out of here and get into the UK and vice versa, and we can all be healthy and not worried about making one another sick. But this topic is a very, very important topic. So, Brother Bill, I want you to tune in too. This is a focus on the Muslim Journal. Now, for those who don't know the Muslim Journal is a landmark in the African American Muslim community. Let me say it again, a landmark in the African American Muslim community, but also the African American Muslim experience. And when I say experience, I say that because it is a landmark in terms of the footprint for Islam here in the United States. It started in 1960, of course, with Malcolm X. It was Muhammad Speaks, so Mr. Muhammad Speaks went up to 75. Of course, we had the second resurrection. Imam Muhammad took it over, and they still have the final call with the Nation of Islam. But the derivative was, of course, the Muslim Journal, and the Muslim Journal is very interesting because it actually categorized, number one, and archives the move of Muslims from the Nation of Islam to a foundational understanding of Sunni Islam or Orthodox Islam. Let me say that again. From the Nation of Islam to a Sunni foundational understanding. And I say understanding because people think, oh, you just became Sunni. No, that is not what happened. This was a very calculated and strategic move to Orthodox Islam. A lot of people think, oh, that's not what happened. When we talked about remembering Imam Muhammad, people have to understand that he had been around a while. And he had watched his father put together this thing called the Nation of Islam. But the Nation of Islam had a social component and it also had a spiritual component. The religious component, I want people to understand, do not even think for a moment that Elijah Muhammad did not know about Sunni Islam. His son learned it, number one. And it was in this space that the outgrowth, when the Nation of Islam was disbanded in 75, or 76, if you will, that Imam Muhammad began the paper as a larger pursuit of understanding and also information. A larger pursuit of understanding and information for the masses. This paper is really, really important. I'm bringing this up because, unfortunately, because of COVID, they're not able to do their normal fundraising. Let me say that again. They're not able to do their normal fundraising. And so they've had to do something on Launch Good. You look up Muslim Journal, Launch Good. Sister Sultana, if you could put that up, and I'll put it out in a link if you don't mind while I'm talking about it. I'm speaking about the Muslim Journal because it's a foundation. It's a foundation. And I'd be very remiss if I said, oh, it's a foundation for African American Muslims. It is not. It is a foundation for Islam in America. Too many times people believe that Islam in America just took root. It did not take root. And let me explain to you the importance, because it's a spectrum that you have to appreciate. It's a spectrum that you have to understand, that it's a strategic process of how you got the Muhammad speech, and you got the Muslim Journal, and you got the final call. Thank you, Sultan. I'm going to put it up right here, brothers and sisters. So if anybody wants to go and make a donation to the Muslim Journal, go to Launch Good. That's it. But I'm going to speak about this, and I'm going to leave this up because as a foundational paper, it's found itself struggling, if you will. And it's not struggling, I thought, because of the business model. I made a mistake, and I'm going to clearly admit I made a mistake, that it was struggling because of the business model. I find that the Muslim Journal is struggling because people don't understand its legacy. People don't understand its legacy. And the people who do understand its legacy, they're older. They're older, they're pioneers. They saw Islam in America take root. And unfortunately, we don't have enough people to tell that story. And the paper was a part of it. The paper was an absolute part of it. It is a part of the radical black press. Hear what I'm saying? The radical black press. Because pretty much any black newspaper back then dealt with issues of racism, dealt with issues of opportunity, access, and family. If you really want to understand the Muslim Journal, let me shout out my little brother. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I need to talk to you too after the show. But if you really want to understand the Muslim Journal, you need to do a full-on investigation, full-on, I want to say, research project of understanding the importance of African American newspapers. All African American newspapers were addressed as the radical press. And the Nation of Islam had a religious ideology and a religious identity that had to get out to the masses. And the papers, how they did it during, of course, Mr. Muhammad Speaks. But a lot of people don't understand that Mr. Muhammad Speaks was Malcolm X's brainchild, but it was originally supposed to be a magazine highlighting, here it is, Black family life. So for some of you don't understand, there was a time where you opened a magazine and nobody had a real idea what Black family life looked like. Black family life, and it was in Life magazine. The Nation of Islam was in Life magazine because they emulated, in regards, what successful Black life looked like in America. It humanized what? Mobility. And what categorized it, what archived it? Again, Muhammad Speaks, and then the Muslim Journal. I'm gonna share a little clip that I found. I hope everybody just hangs in there. I'm gonna share this little clip I found about this gentleman talking about radical press and talking about what was then the Mr. Muhammad Speaks. But if you hear Mr. Muhammad Speaks, its relative or its brother is the Muslim Journal. Okay, we'll be right back. Don't leave, because I'll be coming back to you.
Voice protest, to voice concern about injustice and organize people around a certain set of ideas. And when he joined the Nation of Islam outreached to Black press like the New York Amsterdam News and the Pittsburgh Courier, in order to voice some of their religious content. So essentially the speeches of Elijah Muhammad would be published in the Black press. So there was a long history both within the organization as well as Malcolm X in particular, recognizing the value of the Black press, in Malcolm's terms, is really the only venue to articulate the true plight of African Americans was through the Black press. And so by 1960, Malcolm had really come up with a design for a paper that would be distributed by the Nation of Islam, so they wouldn't have to look externally for places to voice the organization's views. But it's not just the organization's religious views that Malcolm is interested in. Very early on, the paper, initially named Mr. Muhammad Speaks, represents not just the speeches and teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but also news on housing discrimination, police brutality, and other issues of concern for African Americans living in New York City. And so, especially for Black Harlemites, where the paper is largely circulated, this was a really popular source. And it was so popular that within a year, the paper became a national press. It was moved to Chicago, where it was distributed nationally and internationally. And there's a couple really interesting things that happen, some by intent and some by circumstance, that make it a unique press. Malcolm was always interested in getting really high quality journalists and editors at the paper. He had approached James Baldwin to be the first editor-in-chief, and Eric Lincoln, who wrote the best-selling book, The Black Muslims, also worked at the paper. And there were very few Muslims that actually worked as editors at the paper. I mean, even Malcolm, who started the paper, essentially, handed it off in 1961 to Dan Burley and Richard Durham in Chicago. And there's a couple of really interesting reasons for this. One was, the nation was still growing. It didn't have a lot of members that were journalists. And secondly, after Malcolm and everything that happened in terms of the break with the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad really wanted to be watchful, according to several of the former editors, of any one member of the organization gaining too much influence. And so by circumstance and intent, they ended up getting this cadre of progressive, justice-minded, high-quality journalists writing and essentially running the paper. And so in a few short years, the paper becomes this widely distributed, high-quality journalistic enterprise that, oftentimes we associate with being just the voice of the Nation of Islam, but it really was a journalistic endeavor, and as a journalistic product even. You can see how remarkable it was, and as a historical product, it's really extraordinary as well.
So that completely complicates the history of Black Muslims, and particularly the Nation of Islam, when we think about this newspaper as bringing in all these different actors who aren't necessarily religiously aligned with the paper, right? It's political. So when I think of a paper like Muhammad Speaks, my first instinct is to think of it as a religious paper. Is it a religious paper, or do you see it doing other sorts of things during this time period?
It's such an important question, and I think the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
It's certainly a religious paper because the editors were expected to very carefully edit the actual speeches of Elijah Muhammad and to put them in sort of the center of the paper, prominently, oftentimes highlighting on the front of the paper the story or the theme. Images of Elijah Muhammad or of members of the Nation of Islam oftentimes were splashed on the cover. And the cover is this tabloid-sized paper. And so, they're often very colorful, literally, in terms of the actual tones that they use. And so, in that sense, it was definitely a religious paper. Also, people contributed, their experiences as members of the Nation of Islam in the paper as letters to the editor, and there were extensive pieces that were published there. But it was also a paper that included, a vast amount of coverage of revolution in Congo, of issues with police brutality, and even inequality in schooling. And so they were doing a lot of coverage on the ground, and they had a lot of freedom to do so. You would have journalists come in, and Elijah Muhammad would individually interview.
So I hope everybody kind of got to see that, because Muslim journalists continue that tradition. The uniqueness of black press, or quote unquote the black radical press, is that it wasn't necessarily radical. It was a purposeful press. As well as being a purposeful press, it was a strategic press, underscoring the fact that while you had a Muslim identity, there was still the idea that foundational justice was not relegated just to black Muslims. It was relegated to African Americans, all oppressed peoples. So even with the Muslim Journal migrating from the Mr. Muhammad Speaks, what you have is a continuum. And at this point in time, I really want us to understand how important that continuum is. If you have a pickup, a Muslim Journal, brothers and sisters, let me welcome El Primo, Isla, Salam. Okay, I got you, brother. I got you. Alhamdulillah. Okay, brother. I appreciate you coming on the show, El Primo. But brothers and sisters, I just want you to take a moment to appreciate it. Like when I come out, I make jokes about the guys that sell Muslim journals. A lot of them older brothers, but I want you to also understand that is part of a discipline. A lot of brothers that sell the Muslim journals somehow have a relationship, in a lot of regards, to the Final Calls or the Muhammad Speaks or guys who used to sell papers. One of my good friends, man, I'll be pleased with him, was Imam Kasmak, man. He used to tell me all these stories about how when he was in the nation, they sell thousands upon papers. It is really, really important also to say that this was not a Muslim paper. If you sell Muslim papers, a million Final Calls, a million Mr. Muhammad Speaks, a million Muslim journals, you have to understand there weren't that many people back then. This is the modern miracle and strategic excellence of understanding scope. The Muslim Journal needs help. Why does it need help? I said, you know why? Because we're not talking enough about the legacy. The legacy of the Muslim Journal is that it has continued the same thing that the Muhammad Speaks did and the Final Call did. If you take the Final Call and you take the Muslim Journal and you really examine them, what is the basis for both of them? The basis of both papers is the fact that they feel as though they have a fiduciary responsibility to give information and care for the oppressed peoples that read the paper. Then on top of it, it has also a fiduciary responsibility and accountability for the people who are oppressed to understand. This is the problem. These are the issues and speak truth to power. Big brother Ben Abdul Haq. That's right. Oldest Muslim newspaper in America in a continuum. So I don't really want to get into the thing. I'm not going to get into fundraising. I thought it was really, really interesting what the gentleman said about the yes and no of the Muhammad Speaks, because the Muslim Journal has been in a yes and no. But what's happened, and I can be freely about, is that as you move into mainstream spaces, you have to do mainstream tricks. You have to do mainstream scenarios where people do pick off the talent. People too say, I like that strategy. People do pick off your marketing. They do look at your PR. They do co-opt your stories. And all of a sudden you find yourself with a paper that's still excellent, but you're dealing with a different type of competition. So my point is we'll get to it. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother man. Even my mom has looked at the Muslim Journal. So she's just throwing it in there. And she knows that. My mother also used to look at the Muhammad Speaks and the Final Calls back in the day. She used to go spend time at Masjid Muhammad, which was Muhammad's Mosque number 4 back in the day. During the time, she went to Howard University. So, but my point is, this legacy has to be upheld. There are no other papers in competition with the Muslim Journal. In our community, nobody's come up with another paper that said we're going to challenge the Muslim Journal. Why? It'd be futile. Because people recognize a certain level of excellence. They also recognize a certain amount of legacy. You don't take down a legacy with something that has no gear. It has no bite. But what you do when you have a legacy, what you do when you have a treasure like the Muslim Journal, is you have to be willing to support it. Because the support, as the man said locally in the clip I just showed, the support was not just about Muslims. Malcolm X wanted something that he wanted a communication piece. They understood the power of black press. Let's stop right there. Just understanding the power of black press. We just had an election, brothers and sisters. You had CNN, well, you had ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, MSNBC. None of those represented any of our points of view in regards to our experience as African Americans, African American Muslims, oppressed, challenged people. Those were the masses telling you information about you, but telling in such a way that it was not designed for you to help you. And I think that's the other thing we should also look at about the black press. The unique part about the black press, and it's not spoken about enough, and I'm going to say, here you go, to subscribe. If you can't, brothers and sisters, if you cannot donate anything to the Muslim Journal, subscribe. Subscribe to the Muslim Journal. It's right there, www.muslimjournal.net. And it's important because all our masjids are closed because we're trying to observe COVID protocol. But the newspaper, it needs help. It needs help. So forgive me for spending this time talking about the Muslim Journal. But I'm talking about the Muslim Journal because I think it's important, not just to me as an African American Muslim, but as a man, a student of knowledge. And many of you are students of knowledge. And I think we need to be very, very careful and diligent, making sure that we have our own resources. We have our own, what's the word? Informational sources. I once had a conversation with my mentor, Mr. Dick Gregory. And in a conversation where he talked about Malcolm and what Malcolm meant to him, and he talked about how he had conversations with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And what did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad ask about Dick Gregory outside of when are you going to become a Muslim boy? He asked him, would you have interest in writing for our newspaper? Which means, of everybody I've talked to, okay, here's a good one. Sister Rabina Chowdhury. She said, would you agree the Muslim Journal was a blueprint for papers like Ebony, Black Voice, etc.? I'm going to say, Sister Rabina, excellent question. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. There's a book called Becoming Muslim by Dr. Chan, Sister Chan. And she talks about that movement. And one of the things that they talk about in the book, Becoming Muslim by Dr. Chan, is the fact that Malcolm X encapsulates this thing that they are going, in some regards, to frame what successful Muslim lives, particularly Sylvia Chan, Dr. Sylvia Chan, in her book, Becoming Muslim, they talk about this idea. And it wasn't actually Malcolm. It was the women of the Nation of Islam who were trying to frame for the men what successful life looked like. Because you have to realize, you're dealing with a double racism factor for men and women, and sexism. So women couldn't even express this whole idea of who they were. And it had this scope of Islam, the scope of religious identity, which was amazing because it's basically a bubble in a bubble, as we talked about before. Sister Rabina, you're correct, because they were one of the first ones to start paper. The one of the big features of being in the Nation of Islam was family life, framing the idea that the man took care of his family. I remember some of the words when I was, in the streets, and I would hear the Nation of Islam. You got black man, you got to clean yourself up, and you got to take care of the woman. You're only as good as your woman. It's your woman taken care of, and that was a mantra. It's very strategic. So if you get a chance, pick up Dr. Sylvia Chan's Becoming Muslim, because a lot of the push behind, particularly the Nation of Islam, Muslim Journal, Muhammad's speech was females. It was females. So I got something for Dr. My brother Adam Khan. I got here late. Forgive me, you. But could you speak why the Muslim Journal is important to the broader North American community? I will reiterate. Um, it was a blueprint for successful integration in America in terms of Islamic identity. Brother Adam, Islamic identity. I said this in a paper I was writing. For African Americans, Islam was American. For some of my immigrant brothers and sisters who came with Islam, they made it American. They had to make it American. For African American Muslims, it was American. When I say that, it came with all the beauty, it came with all the scars, it came with all the heartache, it came with all the racism, it came with all the oppression. But with all those things was this beautiful continuum of devotion and faith that was not tied into the oppressor. It was not tied into systemic racism. It was the thing that lifted everybody above it. And that was the way that's the way religion was practiced with African American Muslims. And more importantly, just like all the other protest religions of the 50s and the 60s, it had a component that said, this thing that God has given me is meant to fight foundational injustice. And that's why the Muslim Journal is important, because it reminded everybody of foundational injustice. People can say whatever they want to about the final call or Muhammad speaks. Even if you look at the final call is not easy on American justice. It questions American justice all the time, but it should question American justice. It should question police brutality, because where else are you going to get your information? If you're oppressed, do you want to get your information or your resources from the people that oppress you? I think the answer is no. So I think you should. That's one of the things, and it has created an imprint, and it's made it a lot easier for people to be Muslim in America. And the reason I said it is because you don't have to deal with the racism. You don't have to deal with systemic. You can practice religion because that's one of the lesser things that American society attacks. So let me say that. Yes, September 12th, I did an interview with the editor of the Muslim Journal, Aisha Mustafa. You can go to this YouTube channel and check it out. So Sister Rabina, you can go there and check it out with the editor. Brother Adam, you can go out and check out my interview with the editor, Sister Aisha K. Mustafa, who is a teacher of journalism down in Tugelo, Mississippi. Beautiful sister. If you hear her story, it's so much eloquent, so much more eloquent than what I'm talking about, because she gives you the play-by-play. She gives you when it was still a nation. Sister Rabina, I know you will like it because you're always on top of it. So I'm gonna leave that up for a moment. Let me take this out. I'm gonna say this up. I'll put it back up before the end. Let's see. Inshallah, take out a subscription for formally. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Ben. Make sure everybody, if you can, take out a subscription. You can get it digitally too, so don't have to worry about it being delivered to your door. You can get it, and it's touchless and it's COVID free. How about that? Sister being asked this question, I believe it was that exact strong family bond that the U.S. government became hell bent on destroying. You are correct. You're correct. Sister Rabina, you're gonna get me shut down, Sister Rabina. I always like that you're on point. Yes, you are 100% correct, because that thing, when it carried over to the 70s, by that time, COINTELPRO had thoroughly infiltrated the NOI and probably the WD Muhammad community as well. Anything that will produce a solid model of leadership that was not based on emotion. How about that? Based on religious principles and identity and strategic understanding of how you build community and leadership. That's always befuddled the United States, the strong religious leader. So if anybody would like to check it out, I would say please go to this spot, because I had a wonderful interview with Sister Aisha Mustafa, who's currently the editor of the Muslim Journal. She's been there gosh, at least what? Sultano, at least 30 years, at least 25 years. She does. I almost said a yeoman's. I'm gonna say a yo woman's work, yo woman's effort to make sure that paper is put out and produced because it's relevant, brothers and sisters. I think there's no way I can really understate or overstate, if you will, how important the paper is. It's the same as if I had somebody here talking about the final call. I believe the same type of tone and texture that I'm having in this conversation. It'd be the same thing. I get the Muslim Journal and I still get the final call. And I have no problem reading both of them. So listen, that's it about ShOUT. Yes, there you go. She's been the editor. Sister Rabina, Sister Aisha has been the editor of the Muslim Journal for over 35 years. You need to check out that interview. I want you to check out that interview. I'm going to put it back up here before we bounce off. But brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for coming out and checking out the show. I appreciate it as always. And hopefully, we'll have a conversation. We started out the week about what? Remembering Imam Waruddin Muhammad. And we talked about Craig. Remember Craig yesterday? You're talking about all these nuances. And one of the things that he definitely invested in, he definitely promoted, was the Muslim Journal. So I think we're going to have a week of just Imam Waruddin Muhammad stuff, but not the normal stuff. I thought Craig was amazing yesterday. I hope everybody kind of enjoyed it a little bit. I know it was different, but it was really a strategic and philosophical windfall if you start talking about when he was trying to do these things, because you're talking early 80s. You have people who have had PhDs for 20, 25 years based off of stuff he did back in the 70s. They have PhDs, brothers and sisters. They call people like myself to talk about Imam Waruddin Muhammad. I'm like, but you're benefiting from him right now. The information you're giving me, I've heard already. Okay, I'll send the link. I have it up right now, Sister Rabina. I have the link up right now. If you can check it out, Sister Editor. Ben, you should check it out too, unless you saw it already. YouTube_OSG lowercase NOTTISTE. I'll figure out how to do it. I'll make sure you get it, inshallah. So everybody, I appreciate your time on the show. I don't want to disrespect your time because I would like to have people come back. God bless you. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow. If I don't see you tomorrow, keep me in your du'as because I keep you in mind. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the ShOUT Show, and I'm Preacher Moss. Take care.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your ShOUT Show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next ShOUT Show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarif Altar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out TarifAltar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.